Okay. Welcome to Brightly, you radiant being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
I'm so ready for this conversation. I stood up.
No, and you know what's so funny is that you stood up and then I stood up too. I was like, oh, we're standing. I'm standing too.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Well, Tracy, we were chatting ahead of time, and I think Tracy knows how I am. While overall good, all of a sudden it's just like this feeling of what?
Existential dread.
Yeah, well, kind of that. It's just more like, what's happening? What am I doing? What is the purpose of my life? How am I handling my life? How am I living my life? How am I stepping into each day?
Did we Freaky Friday? Did we switch roles? This is usually me. Oh no. I was really hoping this podcast would more of you would seep into me. I'm so sorry.
No, that's hilarious. Freaky Friday.
Well, I'm kind of similar to you. There is a new trend on my favorite social media platform, TikTok, where I lurk often. But it's where if January me knew, and then they list all the things different in their life since January. I think January me would be, they would not be happy. I mean, same as you. Nothing's terrible, but nothing's different. And I think January me wanted different, or was hoping we'd get to a place where we would have completely redone our life. But you know what? January Tracy didn't know what she wanted, so I really don't know where she gets off thinking that November Tracy would know what she wants.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like November Amy is finally getting to the point where she knows exactly what she wants.
Oh, damn. Wow.
But she doesn't know how to get there.
Oh, I think November Tracy can help November Amy.
Yeah. But the same thing, just kind of I wasn't sure what I really wanted. It was I always have these goals. Of course I have goals, but yeah. It's like writing a book. What's the overarching theme?
What's the outcome we're trying to get to beyond the treachery of slogging through the work of the goal?
So have you started working on anything, or do you have your sights on anything that you want to work on? And what I mean by that is work on for next year. I don't mean goal, but like the how to,
yeah. So, my new thing, well, at least as of recording, we're roughly 44 days from the end of the year. So I think on Monday when this posts, Tuesday, depending on when you can, if you consider the 31st, the deadline, or all of the 31st has to transpire, it'll be roughly 40 days until the end of the year. I'm going to do a 40-day sprint. All the things I said I was going to do this year, all the things I was going to add to my routine, all the projects I was going to complete or start or do. It is a 40-day sprint. No excuses. Doesn't matter if you don't have the energy. Doesn't matter how you feel. We are just going to do it. And at the end of the 40 days, we'll know what we hated beyond it being new or taking work, right? Mm-hmm. But if I don't know what I want, if those things don't help me get through that analysis paralysis piece where I feel like I've been in through all this, business of being you, analyses we've been doing on ourselves all year, then I'm just going to pick a random popular goal to achieve for the year. And I just have to work towards it till I know what I want.
It's generic Tracy.
Generic goal Tracy, because so often, how often is it that you get something and then realize what you really wanted? Or you tell someone oh, it's either this or this for dinner. And then as soon as there's that space where that person's about to pick, you know what you really wanted for dinner. Or like,
Absolutely.
right? Or you tell yourself, I'm going to flip a coin to decide. And then when it's in the air and you're like, oh God, I hope it's heads, right? Like that's kind of the
Right.
end goal of the 40-day sprint. In addition
So
to
can
just
I just ask you,
accountability.
yeah, do you feel like it'll just push you to that answer?
I think part of why I feel like January Tracy would be frustrated is we thought things would be different, but we didn't change anything we were doing.
I'm loving how you're talking about yourself as we, but
We
not like royal we, like literally thinking about
was cute, yeah.
January Tracy and November Tracy.
Yeah, well, and there's
Yeah.
that aspirational side of me that
Mhm.
has this ambition in her and wants it to be better, but then is just waiting for a different me to figure out what that is and how to get there, right? And so
Yeah.
I think you were asking about the how. So for me, it's going to really be about if we get out of some of these habits, not necessarily bad habits, but just habits that we're not happy with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we replace them with miracle morning things, or we replace them with things that could prepare us for goals we've in the past have expressed
Mhm.
interest in. Maybe that's how we get to the how, is just, I don't know. I was thinking about the times in my life when I was the most goal getterist, right? Like the most like not necessarily achieving my goals, but actively having them and striving and working towards them. It was when I was too busy to like be like, oh wow, I don't want to do this right now, or oh, I'll do this tomorrow, right? Like
Mhm.
I was a student, I worked 2 jobs, I volunteered, like I did a lot of family stuff. I had a roommate, all these things. And now I'm like, we spent all this time the past 4 years protecting our time or being like, oh, we'll do this later, or oh, self-care is taking a break. No. The how for me is just do it. Just do it. It's the Nike method.
Okay. I
How about
I love it. I love that. I've been thinking a lot about this is going to seem like it's off topic, but thinking a lot about how to plan like a lesson plan or curriculum, because at some point we want to offer programs. And so you have to know how to build a program, how to offer teachings, how to build off of these, the last lesson or whatever. And so as I was thinking about lesson planning, I was like, I want a lesson plan for myself, like for my life. I want a lesson plan for my life. And one of the things that I saw on lesson planning, they're like, here's these 8 steps for it might have been curriculum. It doesn't
yeah,
matter. I'm going to say
same
curriculum.
thing.
I'm going to say lesson. The first thing is describe your vision. And I'm like, yes, this is perfect for my life. Now, like you, Tracy, it's like you're not sure what it is you want, but the minute like you either make a decision or somebody else says something, then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, wait, it's this other thing. I was doing this, I don't know, some workshop or whatever, and it was like, write out your dream day. And my like dream day was like all of it wasn't the dream week that I had on vacation.
It
It
was
was
different
like, oh, teaching 50 women, blibbity blah, writing this,
every day.
creating that. It was, no, this was for one
One
day,
day. Okay.
but it was very aspirational and lots of work, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking creative work. And, because, oh, I want to serve thousands and blah, blah, blah. And the minute I wrote it down, I was like, that's not what you want. You want a day full of ease and grace and creativity and magic. That's what you want.
And maybe that will help 50 women along the way, but
Right.
not with some huge sacrifice or detriment to yourself.
But I used to always think that my big goal, my big
Yeah.
dream had to be big,
Oh,
like comparatively, right? That it had
yeah.
to be big. And yet it's all relative, and we get to decide what our big dream is. And maybe our big dream would look small to someone else. And so that was just it was eye-opening to me. And
So,
yet I'm still at the place where I'm like, but I don't know how to get there.
well, I love what you said though about like the me versus everyone else, because it goes back to earlier this year in season 1 when we were talking about vision boards. And one of the reasons why I didn't make a physical vision board was I was embarrassed if someone saw it in my house, as
Yeah.
though anybody I
Yeah.
invite into my house or anybody I know, if they criticize the vision I want in my life, they're out of my life, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, for this to be like, yeah, maybe the goal's not a big deal to someone else, like, they better make it a big deal. I'm in their life.
Yeah.
They better understand what it means to me. But so going back to like the lesson plan or the
Yeah.
curriculum title, this is just it's so much better than a SMART goal, because a SMART goal, while it states your goal and kind of your outcome and the exact steps and how you're going to get there, what I feel like is it assumes you know what you're doing. And a lesson plan or curriculum to me implies you're still going to learn along the way.
Yes,
And it also
absolutely.
it's although teachers and lesson plans and curriculums are really formal and really educated back by science, it just seems less boring business than a SMART goal to be like, I have a lesson plan for my life. I have a lesson plan for how I'm going to write my book. I have a curriculum for my top 10 goals, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree. It does
they're
seem less
overwhelming.
boring. And I feel like exactly what you said, that it doesn't have to be obviously with a real lesson plan or curriculum. It's all set out and laid out. But with our own personal lesson plan, we get to like the third lesson that we're on, however those lessons look like. And then we're like, oh, now I see I need to do this thing in order to move forward, or whatever the case may be.
Or
So I
maybe
feel like
even,
there is that
yeah.
flexibility with it.
Yes, but like the SMART goals, so you have SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound goals. What I like about the lesson plan is within like those goals or those steps or whatever, you can state what you hope to learn along the way. So even if your goal is small or you only achieve part of it, right? You
Yeah.
can still feel successful in, but I learned XYZ, right? And then that helps you
Yes.
for the next cycle, for the next semester, right? Because that's the thing with like school and lessons is it's a quarter, it's a semester, it's a 9 month slash year long program, and everything builds to the next. Whereas a SMART goal feels so finite.
I love that you brought that up, that because it does build to the next one, right? So just like say in school, you take, whatever, algebra 1, algebra 2,
Calculus.
geometry,
Yeah.
calculus, whatever the order is, and it one thing builds on what you learn from the last one.
And the
That's
overall thing is I want to get better at math and logic, right?
right.
That's the
Right.
overarching goal, but and each of those steps have steps along the way. And so for me, like I think I've shared like some things like as an adult, I still really wanna, I've never learned how to play the piano. I've always wanted to since I was a kid, but I feel like at almost 40 years old, the outcomes along the way or like the expectations along the way are so much bigger, right? Whereas like,
Oh, I would
no, I
think they'd
should
be
still have to
smaller.
start with like Mary Had a Little Lamb, but like in my
Right.
head, it's like, no, I should be able to play XYZ.
Well,
And
you're
so like
also a Virgo.
I am, and I'm as we stated in your description of how you're feeling before, I'm a little intense.
So
Some of this.
here's one little thing that I've started. We are going to be going on a big trip next year. We're going to go to France. Now, I took 5 years of French in school, 5 years. And honestly, I'm like, yeah, the pen of my aunt. The waves are very strong. Like that's the extent of it. But apparently I know more. And I sort of poo-pooed Duolingo because I felt like that was babyish.
Oh.
But then I didn't do anything, nothing. So finally, I uploaded the app, Duolingo again. And now every day I do a lesson. But this time it's not so babyish because I actually tested before I started. So it was like, let's test where we should start you. And apparently I knew more than what I thought I knew. So that made me feel good. But now these lessons are very short
Mm.
and easy to do. They're like less than 8 minutes each. And you have like a streak. You're like 5 day
Yes, it's
streak.
motivating.
Oh, it is motivating. And so once I allowed myself to do the easy way, I'm actually doing it. And I feel like it will open my brain up to remembering, because there's things I remember that I'm like, I don't know where I pulled that out
Well,
of.
but so that's just the thing. So, you were so starting is better than not starting at all, right? So being at the baby level, even
Yeah.
like it sounds like I want to learn French, and what I know is available to me is either seems too advanced or too expensive or unattainable, or seems babyish. And so like part of this
Yes.
lesson plan is, well, the outcome is I want to learn French or like refresh my French before my trip on X date, right? And so the lesson plan is we're going to start with the baby level. And then part of that is learning whether or not the tool is right for you, right? Like that's one of the
Yes.
lessons you're learning.
Ooh, yes. I love that.
And then through that, figuring out, okay, if this tool isn't right for me, what is it missing or what does it have that I'm not using? And then finding a better tool at the end of this lesson, right? Like you're kind of like after I take, like I'm in a data analytics master's course, and it's really shown me, Tracy, you're never going to do data analytics. It doesn't matter how many people tell me like that's the future or how many roles they see at my company growing. I don't want to do it. Not now, not ever. And so for me, like that was a bigger lesson than learning the data analytics I learned in the course, right? Like
That's such a great point, that sometimes the better lesson is that you'll find out what you don't want, right? And that is help too in just sort of figuring out your path. One of the things that I was reading about for a lesson plan, they call it the 4 A's of a lesson
of course
plan.
they do.
Yes. Activating prior knowledge. So I feel like that's like, this is helping me activate it. Acquiring new knowledge, applying the knowledge, and assessing the knowledge. And I feel like you were talking about those things earlier with something else, that whatever we were talking about in the beginning. But I think so often we don't do that assessment piece, like, oh, was this for me, or was it worth it, or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing, when you were talking about the Duolingo, for me, that once you do it, was this the right tool? And if not, what was it missing? Because I am going through that right now, trying to pick out a new planner, an
Yeah.
actual planner. And apparently I am very picky.
Amy, last December/January, I decided to design my own, and I've been refining it all year to the point where I haven't been using it. I've just been fixing it of what I wish it would have been this week, or if I
Yeah.
would have had this, I would have used it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's things
So
like yeah.
that's actually what I started doing. I went on Canva and I printed out a planner page. And then I went, well, I don't need to write down breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, that's just
You're
stupid for
not,
me.
yeah.
I'd rather have something else in that block. But also, I want you to share your planner with me.
I have shown some stuff, and my
No, I
ultimate
know
goal
you
is
have.
to, when we do
Yeah.
launch a website or an Etsy page or something, to have it. But I think I did share that template with you once because
No,
it
you
has
did.
like the weather you color in, and like I like
You
to put.
did. I actually have it in a
Yeah,
book,
I was
but
a bullet journaler in 2014. I'm impressionable by the internet for sure. but
yeah,
but so like
I feel like I need a place for everything. I'm tired of separating out everything. I don't know. Sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
so I was gonna go back to the 4 A's of a lesson
Yeah.
plan. So what I like about a lesson plan and like thinking of those 4 A's versus a SMART goal is sometimes a SMART goal can feel so isolating and overwhelming because you're not acknowledging I'm not starting
Oh,
from scratch. I'm starting from experience. Even if I've never
yes.
mountain biked before, I've done other things requiring balance or turning or cycling before, right? Like I've walked the trails that I'm currently planning on biking, right? Like there's so much prior experience I wasn't giving myself credit for when I was like super anxious about attending my first class for it, right?
Yeah.
And like some people are able to just jump into things and not take classes, but I was like, what about safety? What about trail etiquette? What about what I don't know to ask? What about what I don't know to, or
Mhm.
what's that saying I always say? I don't know what I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like a lesson plan and going through that, the activating, acquiring, applying, assessing as part of like planning out your goal helps reduce those don't knows. And maybe you just get to I know what I don't know, which is still better than not knowing anything, right? Like,
Well, yes, especially because I mean, if you're just looking at like life in general, you're like, I don't know what I don't know. But if you're narrowing it down to one specific field or thing, or, playing the piano or
well, because what if you
whatever.
flush out this SMART goal and you get to a point where there was something you didn't know to plan for,
Yeah.
right? And it's now going to affect whether or not it's realistic, whether or not it's actionable, whether or not it's going to hit in this time frame. Whereas, like you said earlier, a lesson plan might be a little bit more flexible to be like, oh, okay, well, if we're going to learn this part of geography, then we have to start here, right? Or like, I once had a professor or a teacher in geometry be like, oh, you guys were a part of XYZ's teacher's prior course last year. Okay, I now know what I have to teach you before you can get to where my other classes are, right? So we had to learn a little bit of foundational stuff while learning the big stuff, right? Or sometimes you have to have a refresher course. But I still ended the semester knowing what everybody else that took that class at a different time knew, right? Like
Mhm.
we just moved our stuff around a little bit more. This is
I did.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I feel like I love that you just had to learn some foundational stuff because I think we don't always like you almost were thinking you weren't going to allow yourself the foundational things with playing a piano,
Yeah.
right? That you do have to start with the scales, doing the scales
To
and
be
things
like,
like
wow,
that,
I'm almost 40. I got to know how to read sheet music by now.
right?
In the first
No, you
lesson. And it's
don't.
like, no, you would still
No.
play the same little kid
You
songs.
Yes, you get to be a beginner just like a 6-year-old gets to be a beginner, or whatever. And I think that we don't allow that in ourselves to I know that we've had beginner episodes before, but I think that we don't allow ourselves to be a beginner in things, because we are adults and we've been successful at certain things, and so we just think that we need to be at the level of success with everything
Yeah.
that we
But
try
like,
or
let's say
start.
you're even like, let's say you're advanced algebra 2. You're still a beginner in advanced algebra 2, right? Like,
Yeah.
right? So allow yourself to be a beginner in everything you're doing.
Mhm. When I started the new position, at the county working with projects, and I finally just allowed myself to be like, I'm new at this. I'm new at reading floor plans. I'm new at architectural terms, to just be the beginner and say, can you just explain this? It's not like people looked at me like I was an idiot. No, they appreciated it. And then they were happy to explain it because
Oh,
most people actually love to explain things
um,
that they're experts in.
the one thing I think has helped me the most professionally and actually gets me respect is when I hear a word I don't know, a process I'm unfamiliar with, or even
Mhm.
like I used to be in sales and you'd meet new people and like they'd say, my name is Papadopoulos, right? And then you'd have to like write something down. There were so many people that would just like pretend to know, right? Or just like act like they
Yes.
know. And the one thing I noticed was anytime I was like, oh, can you spell that for me? Or what does that mean? Why do we do that? Like that, everybody loves to share their knowledge. Nobody treated me like I was dumb. It was actually the opposite. They knew that I was looking to learn, opening
Mhm.
to hear from them, and that then I would take that and assimilate it and then like combine it with my experience and knowledge before giving um the answer or a suggestion or coming up with a process or a proposal, right? Like
Mhm.
I think that's huge in this is knowing when to ask for help or knowing when to look for more information. Whereas I think, like I said, in a SMART goal, I get overwhelmed and I just cancel out the goal because it's like, I wasn't ready for this. I got to reframe the goal. I got to start from scratch. Instead of a lesson plan, like I said, being like, oh, okay, we're going to redo the lesson plan to include this, push some stuff back. This probably isn't needed. Maybe this was really a 2.0 lesson plan. We'll
Yeah.
table that for
Maybe
later.
this part needs 2 parts,
Yeah.
yeah. What I love about yeah, there's so much flexibility in it, and you get to create it yourself. I mean, you get to make it up. And
Amy, oh my God, we could request a substitute teacher or guest lecturer, right? Like, oh, this section, this is too much for me, but I know so and so knows this. Hey, why don't you, you available for a quick consult? Oh my God, identify resources. I love it. I love it.
so that is all a part of it. The other thing that I love is, I started out with the first one, that's describe your vision. But then the second thing is it the second? No, it's not. But define the transformation is in there as well. So define the
Define, oh,
transformation is different than describe your vision. I
yeah.
almost feel like describe the vision is how you want the experience to be. And the transformation, of course, is like the outcome.
That was one of the biggest things for me with my accountability partner is we each have this worksheet that we fill out that his brother created like this book and this
Oh, yeah.
template.
You talked about that once before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think I've shared this before, but within there I was like, you know what? I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I
Yeah.
do know how I want to feel.
See?
Like in this lesson plan, that should be one of your outcomes is how am I feeling throughout this process? Not just how will
Yes.
I feel when it's done, but while I do it.
Yeah. And I think that's what this is. Well, you can't really see it. Describe your vision. So it's like, I think that's what it is. How do you, I love it. I bet Tracy is going to go look for that book or her,
It's called Goals That Matter by Michael Nelson.
nice. Can you put it up to the camera?
Oh yeah, I think it'll be, is it reversed? Is it mirror?
No, goals that
Um,
matter. Cool.
but yeah, it's a great system to help you elevate your life. And so I think that's similar to the lesson plan versus a SMART goal, maybe, is it
Yeah,
feels
that
more
it's a system.
systematic.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it feels more encompassing. Whereas a SMART goal, like you said, it's like this individual thing.
In
And
your life versus this is the
yeah,
lesson of my life.
right. And that this is folded into your life. This is a part of how you're living your life. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, I have a
So,
question for you though. It's
yeah.
kind of personal, so feel free to say
Okay.
nope or edit it out. Not that I've ever edited this podcast once in 2 years, but
Right.
I'll learn.
No.
You said you know your vision, but you don't know the how. Can we, for either part of your vision, all of your vision, or a fake vision, maybe come up with some lesson plan ideas on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So there is a vision that I feel like my vision is that I want to okay, I need to back up because I'm so weird. Anyways, um I watched a free webinar recently where this woman was talking about, creating I think it was getting more followers on Instagram or something. I can't even remember what it was on, but it was like create your niche and then your four pillars. And you're familiar with that. We're familiar with that kind of verbiage, right? Here's your niche, like that's your overarching thing, and then your four pillars. So I was like, okay, so I wasn't even thinking like life. I was like, all right, if I were going to make my Instagram page be more business page focused, not our Instagram page.
No, your personal Instagram has had quite the transformation this year. You're trying stuff out. I can tell you're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I'm throwing the noodles at the wall.
Yes.
Well, all of a sudden today, I got this idea of I'm always talking about creativity and different things like that. And I'm also talking a lot about magic, witchcraft, rituals, things like that. So I was like, what if I was the creative crone? And that was like the overarching thing. So it was like sort of female based magic, older woman, creativity. And then my pillars were writing, podcasting, magic, and aging. And from there, I was like, what if that was the vision of my life? That within those to be enhancing my life with those things and sharing them out to other people. And so the vision is to have a life more creative and magical.
Where are you stuck?
I don't know. Because I have too much crap all around myself, and I start on something and then I poofy dog, and then I start something else, and then I poofy dog, and I go over here and do this other thing, and I just don't finish things. That's where I'm stuck. So that's why I want the ideal planner. I feel like
Well,
the planner is
I don't know if
everything.
this fits in with lesson plan, but we're going to talk about Amy for a second. Any of those things, do they actually have a finish point? Will any of those pillars ever be finished?
Okay, fine. You made your point.
So I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody who has the sense that they could influence someone positively, right? For whatever reason, through social media or whatever means. I think your platform, your name, what your platform should be under is you. Because then you will never have to rebrand. It is always going to be
I know
you. But here's why though. Wait. So you keep saying you jump around, right? And you don't finish. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, because when you jump around, it's not because you're stuck or you don't know, or you're avoiding something or you're not ending something. It's because something else caught your attention and felt better, felt right, felt more in that moment. What's more magical and creative than that, than responding to your natural inclinations? So I'm wondering if your planner, if your lesson plan can allow for the fact that Amy, who all of this is based on and who, the vision of life is ultimately for, if it allowed space for you to just be you and to be that jack of all trades, master of none, but still better yet than a master of none, right? Like, that's the full saying. Like, you are an amalgamation, like you're a combination of all of your interests. And for me, if I had to force all of my interests into a single day, I'd start to resent some of them because that's a heavy load.
Oh, and I don't mean to put them all in this one day.
Yeah.
But okay, those are really good points. And that was eye-opening. And I do know we've talked about this a lot, that it should just be your name. But it almost felt like I needed that. But now I think I know what I need to do. Now I think
what the work you did was further define, well, who is Amy?
Right.
What am I willing to share? Because before you shared those areas, when you started talking to me, I was like, well, Amy should be the thing. What would Amy's 4 pillars be? And I immediately came up with creativity, aging/crone, magic, and then the 4th is just hobby, right? Or interest. And that's the writing. That's sometimes it's because right now you're still doing the NaNoWriMo, right? Like, it's all the other things that don't fit under magic or creativity, or aging, right? Like, I don't know. You're very, like, that's the thing, like with these lesson plans and with SMART goals that are hard, is when you're a very diverse person, they're too restrictive. And so with the lesson plan, I think of it more like an elementary school teacher versus a high school teacher, where instead of hyper focusing on your one area of study and only teaching social studies, that ain't Tracy and that is not Amy, right? Like, being more like elementary school, and that teacher has to come up with a lesson plan for reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, right? Like, they have to do it all and leave room for recess and lunch.
Yeah. And so all really good points, Tracy, and I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing this episode just to be about me. But
it's about time. They're usually about me.
I know. But I do think that the hobbies are still there. They're just not a pillar.
Yeah.
Necessarily. And also my lesson plan is more about how to go about making room and space in my life for the things that matter to me. So that's almost more what the lesson plan for me is.
Yeah. And I think a lesson plan versus a SMART goal, a lesson plan, or when I think of like my MBA syllabus, is if you're going to take a 4-credit class, that means 16 hours of work a week minimum dedicated to that class, right? So a lesson plan would sketch out that framework of, if this is my outcome, what's the minimum I have to put into it in whatever time period I set to reach that outcome,
while making sure that I'm still taking care of the things that have to be taken care of.
Oh,
Like,
God, yeah.
I don't know, work.
When you said, like, what's my perfect day? Like, I always go back to when I first heard of Joseph Campbell and then went on his Wikipedia and read that he would just read and study whatever interested him for 10 hours a day and sometimes forget to eat and then go to dinner and then go and do all these other things. And like, he just got paid to do that. I've always held that in the back of my head. Like, yeah, that's the vision. That's the goal, Joe. Like, thanks, Joey. Like, just learn new shit all day and somebody pays me for it. And maybe I write a book, maybe I don't.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Right? But like, the lesson plan around that is going to have to factor in, I do not have anybody sponsoring my life at the moment. I don't have a benefactor.
Yeah.
And so like you said, you have to that's why, like, I do time blocking for my agenda, right? And so I know in advance every day, even though I hate to do it, like, I know I need X amount of time for prepping, eating, and cleaning up meals, right? So much time a day for personal care, showering, getting ready, basic chores, all that kind of stuff. So much time a day for working, right? So when everyone's like, oh, you have the same 24 hours. No, you don't. Look at your
No, you
24. Look at how much sleep you need. Look at how much you can actually put forth, what kind of,
Right.
what you need, and then build your lesson plan, your how from there.
Yeah, I think it's really good to reflect too on this last year. And I know that you and I will both be doing that with this great tool that I forgot the name of.
The yearly compass, and it's
Yes,
free.
it
We'll
is
link it in
free.
Instagram, but if you want to reflect on your past year and then also have a tool to help you plan for the next, I love it. It's a great free tool.
Yeah, and I think it'll help just kind of make me focus a little bit on what is important, right? And I think that's the main thing. But this has been helpful, and I feel like I'm going to spend some time this evening digging deeper into it.
I love it. Well, if this was helpful for you or if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can also reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. And per usual, I'm just realizing I haven't been checking that.
I have.
Okay, I thought you were. Cool.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye.